for me, man, when I look at the Washington football team, watching them play Dallas, that was obviously their most recent game. They played them on Thanksgiving. It was interesting to see because obviously that Cowboys team, they had Andy Dalton and they actually looked a lot better, but it was weird because obviously the final score being what it was, it did look ugly, but turnovers were the biggest part of that. I think they scored once or twice on it. I mean, I know they scored once on a, I guess you call that a pick six at the end.
The end of the game.
Yeah, that was a pick six, but they still were able to create turnovers and create short fields. I thought that was the biggest thing with Washington. But as a whole, I think that they're not a good team, but they're not bad either. They're just kind of just average, mediocre. And it's kind of what you would expect when you talk about a team that is very young. I mean, across the board, they're young. They're still playing with the quarterback position. It looks like they're going to be settled in on Alex Smith, but he's essentially, I think, their third quarterback that they've used this season. So anytime you start talking about using multiple quarterbacks, we saw this firsthand last year, that does have a little bit of a negative impact. But with Alex Smith, his style of play, he is very conservative with the ball. I mean, it's Alex Smith. You know him. I mean, he's not going to change his game in whatever year this is from, 10, 11, 12 maybe. With
oh man, well he came in with Rodgers.
Yeah.
He came in with Rodgers. So this is like what 15 or 16. But like technical years, I mean, he sat out those 2 years.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so
maybe 12 or 13.
So with Alex Smith though, man, he's a guy that's going to feature his backs. He checks down a lot. He'll take calculated shots downfield, but that's not his game. He works short as his number one priority, and then from there he'll look intermediate. But I thought Antonio Gibson looked really good against Dallas. It was funny, man, hearing one of the commentators. I usually don't like to listen to the commentators, but it was good to hear they were talking about comparing him to Arian Foster, the running back used to play with the Texans. And honestly, they do run very similar, very smooth runners, almost like they're gliding, not fast. They're not going to blaze by you. They're not as elusive as a Chris Johnson type, right? But just a smooth runner. You can see like how
definitely.
He does a good job, I think, of being patient. He does a good job of setting up his blocks and ultimately using defenders' speed against them. I do like his game. Terry McLaurin, I think that he's going to be a star. He's one of those guys. Definitely. You see him, he's been lighting it up. He's to me the most scary part of their offense. What he's able to do, man. He's a really good player from that standpoint. But yeah, man, I think that they're just. Yeah, they're not gonna wow you. They
a little better Jaguars, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's just once again, I think we use this analogy with the Jaguars. We said it's kind of like watching Syracuse men's basketball. They're gonna 2-3 zone you to death. Like they're not gonna wow you. They're gonna just slow, methodical, check down. Wait till you make a mistake, take a shot. Like,
well, and I think that's
their game,
and that's what they want to do to win because there are 2 games with Alex Smith where he threw for over 300 yards. The one was like over 50 attempts. The other one was over 30 attempts. They lost. Granted, it was by 3, so they were still in the game and everything. But then the 2 that they just won recently, the Bengals and the Cowboys, he had like 15, 16 attempts,
Slow
like 150 yards and a touchdown. Yeah.
Slow play it, allow Antonio Gibson. I mean, they played through Gibson. As much as Terry gave them the downfield threat, and he made big plays, their offense runs through Antonio Gibson between the runs and just as soon as from a passing standpoint, they get rid of the ball, they're dropping it off to Gibson. This is one of those games where Vince, Spillane, Avery, because they're going to see Gibson the most, they have to be really good tacklers. It's not like Gibson's not going to route you up. He's not Le'Veon with his routes, but he's a guy that they're going to make you have to consistently open field tackle. And if you miss a tackle, now they can create some splash off of that. But you got to consistently tackle this guy. And he's going to get the opportunities. Like I said, you watch that tape, man, on Washington, and that's the guy they want to get the ball right now, man.
No, definitely. I feel confident in it, though, with our run defense and everything. Because I was looking at just his game logs, too. Mm-hmm. His 2 best games were against the Cowboys, and then his second best game was against the Bengals. And so if we're facing a run defense like the Steelers here, obviously we're losing Bud Dupree. I think we got the pieces. Is Tua going to be back?
I do not know because he actually tested positive. He wasn't a contact trace.
Oh, was he? Yeah, he might be out for this game then.
Yeah, that's
especially with the time difference.
Right, because it's 5 days.
Wait, when was it though?
I don't know.
Was that over the weekend that it happened?
Yeah, but even if it was, that's only going to be a week.
Because like Lamar's good Tuesday for this game.
Yeah, but I thought Lamar.
You need like 10 or 14 days.
I thought if it's a positive test, it's 14 days. If it's a contact trace, it's like 5 days. So that's like the biggest difference. That's also why some of the players from both sides were able to come back for the game yesterday, because of the contact tracing element of it.
That's 2 weeks because I think we got the news. Was it Tuesday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
And that's why Lamar's going to be back for this game against the Cowboys, right? So, and they say even if they would have played on Monday, he would his first day eligible would be Monday, but because they play on Tuesday, now he's going to get at least 1 day of practice in there.
Okay. See, from everything I knew,
they were trying to make it like Lamar is getting extra. He's get to play now because they moved it back.
That's what I thought. That's what I was telling you. All this stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I'm was fine on Monday, bro. What's going on here?
Yeah, he would have played Monday anyways. It's just now he just gets 1 extra practice. That's about it.
Okay, gotcha.
But because we had to clarify that up prior to this game, so we had to we actually ended up talking to a couple of the beat writers in Baltimore about that.
I did not know that. Yeah.
Because that's what we said. We were frustrated. We were talking about how literally we felt that the NFL was doing that so Lamar could play, but then they had let us know that when Lamar actually tested positive, just off of the days allotted, he would have been fine to play that Monday anyways.
So everyone was just speculating, probably based off when we got the news.
Absolutely. And then they just and that's what we kind of said, where it's like you get one thing and you want to make it, oh man, it's definitely that. Man, they definitely getting us. It's like, not really. That was going to happen regardless. Now he just gets a practice. That's the only difference.
I wonder why that wasn't bigger news, at least saying like, hey, if this isn't about Lamar just playing on Tuesday.
I think the thing was...
maybe it's because we were just trying to get our game in.
I think it was to the point where the narrative was already out there and Steeler fans were just going to run with it. Seriously, we're going to run with it regardless. So I thought that was more so the case. I mean, even when I saw where people went crazy about the Ravens players saying that we didn't feel comfortable going out there and playing a game on Tuesday when we hadn't even been able to be in our facility for, a whole week. And you talk about going there playing a game. So they said we at least want 1 day of practice. And people were like, oh man, I can't believe the Ravens the NFL is going to give these guys this advantage to practice. I'm like, bro, that's not even an advantage. That's just health and safety. And we still saw how many guys pull up limp. RG3 went down hammy. We saw Jimmy Swift go down with a groin. We saw Marlon Humphrey deal with cramp. We saw Marcus Peters. DJ Fluker. Everybody that was out there, you deal with that. And the difference was with Pittsburgh was able to practice. And then they gave them multiple days off. And then they still had them come back and practice 2 days. They practiced Sunday and Monday. Baltimore wasn't in their facility until Tuesday. That's the difference. So I never looked at it as Baltimore is getting all these advantages as much as people wanted to make it like that. It's like, man, if you want to run with that narrative to make you feel better about it, you can do that. But I didn't think that it was justified in this scenario. And that's why you always hear me talk about just narratives and how people run with it. Because like you said, if you just paid attention to that and looked at it, man, Lamar was going to be back out there anyways. But that wasn't the narrative. The narrative was we got the short end. Everybody's been a little bit backwards. That's why he would be out there. That's not the case.
Yeah, that was my thing. I always felt like, man, there are some things going on behind the scenes that's not making sense. There could be some shady stuff going on, but at the end of the day, the NFL is probably having conversations within, with whatever organizations or little departments that they have of like, yo, what should we be doing here? Right. And ultimately, they're just trying to do what's best for the NFL to keep the season going.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's things that we could be questioning on the outside, like, yo, this isn't adding up.
Because I'm like, for the NFL, let's be real.
But to get worked up about it, it's like,
Because I'm like, if the NFL really wanted to give the short end stick to the Steelers, they could have easily just said, what? As soon as they tested positive, the Ravens, and they had to shut it down and didn't play Thursday, they could have just said, all right, we're going to the 16-game playoff. Don't worry about the game.
That'd be worse.
Exactly. If they really wanted to go, oh, we're attacking the Steelers on such a short end, they didn't have to move. Even when they moved it the first time, right? They moved it from Thursday to Sunday. They could have done it then. They could have said, well, we moved it again. You know what? Don't even worry about the game. We're just going to implement the playoffs and good to go. They even could have done it after they moved it from Tuesday. So as much as that whole narrative of, oh, man, the Steelers at the short end, oh, I can't believe this. They've been over backwards for Baltimore. It's like, not really.
For that specific game, it definitely helped us.
It helped us, number one, because we got healthy players back out there. We talked about Joe, who was dealing with some injuries going into the game if it was on Thursday. We talked about Juju. You take away those two players, we short 14 points right now. Realistically, are we not?
Juju was questionable.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Juju scored a touchdown, and Joe Hayden got the pick six. But both of those guys are questionable if they would have played on Thursday night. So to me, I'm like, dude, that worked out in our favor as well. So
Mark Ingram and
JK.
Yeah, they didn't end up playing. They didn't even play. I thought they were going to play.
So as much as people wanted to run with that narrative, to me, like I said, I just didn't think that it was warranted in this situation, because if the NFL really wanted to do that to the Steelers, they got that. It's sitting in the pocket, and they could have pulled it out and been justified based on what the wording that they used. They not only was it an impactful game, but they had to move it multiple times. So everything was in line for them to do that, and they decided against it. So if anything, the NFL was looking out for Pittsburgh. As much as we don't want to hear that, they did look out. Because y'all, as much as we get mad about moving it to Wednesday, imagine they would have just said, we're going to take away that first round bye right now.
Definitely.
Especially with us being undefeated. And now it's different if we talk 3 weeks down the road and we don't drop the game or two and Kansas City's in front. Now we ain't even tripping on that first round bye. But right now,
we just want to be healthy.
Like right now, we want the bye because it's ours. Yeah.
Now, are you thinking they might not do it then, the extra week? Because I know you definitely thought it was going to happen. Are you feeling like it might not?
Now I feel like it might not because this would have been prime opportunity. Yeah. This was a significant game on both sides. This is a game that got moved multiple times. 3 times now? See, it went from Thursday to Sunday, Sunday to Tuesday, and then Tuesday to Wednesday. So it got moved multiple times. Everything was lined up perfect. You still were getting positive tests the day of the game. So I'm like, I mean, for everything that happened, if that was going to be the case, that was the time to move it. So if they didn't move it after that, I'm starting to doubt that they will move it.
So let's get that bye.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, so what was that?
So that was kind of
covered their offense. Yeah.
And now with their defense, man, we talked about the defense a little bit earlier in the year. They have a great front. They get after quarterbacks. Chase Young leads it, but Montez Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan, dude, they come in waves, bro. And it's good to see because obviously outside of their front, the front is where they're most talented at, but they have good players on their defense. I mean, even their linebackers, you talk about Thomas Davis, John Bostic is a guy who played here. They're not going to wow you at this stage, but you talk about fundamentally sound, you talk about getting lined up, not missing tackles. Those guys give you that. And then they got my young JMU boy in the secondary, Jimmy Moreland. Shout out to my dog, Jimmy, man.
I was going to say their cornerbacks are pretty good too.
Yeah. Like the thing is, they don't have a ton of like all pro, like how we talk about our defense and Baltimore's defense, where it's just loaded Pro Bowlers, all pros. They are that next tier where they have really good players, but they don't have the plethora of high-end talent just yet.
Young talented the board.
Guys. They got young talent, guys that could grow into that. Chase Young, he could become a TJ Watt type. Montez Sweat, now that he's healthy, he could become a Bud Dupree type. We know what Ryan Kerrigan is. Ryan Kerrigan. He's the wily vet. He's like their version of Cam Hayward, just not as productive at this stage right now. But he's just a consistent guy. You know what he is. But the rest of the guys, like I said, they're just younger players they could grow into that. Ronald Darby, he's another guy where it's like we've seen him be successful, but he's not Steven Olsen or Joe Hayden, but he's a good corner though. You see, so that's what their team is. So they're not an easy win. We're not saying that at all, but it's one of those opponents where if we execute, we win this game. Yep. We can't go out there and play like how we played the other night. That's not going to work. But if you go out there, you play and you execute the way they're capable of, you take care of business against Washington. Washington, they're going to be a tough out. But us playing to our potential, we still should win this game convincingly.
We talked about game plan last time. Does it change? What are you thinking? We throw the ball 45, 50 times and then just hope we get these red zone problems worked out.
I mean, you hope we all hoping, I guess. Sheesh.
I feel like that's it. I feel like that's the game plan.
You said 45 times. Been through it 50 times, right?
Maybe 50.
Yeah, because it was at 51. So, throw it 51 times again. Yeah, sure. Can't hurt.
You don't think? We trying the run game? But that's what I mean. Their defensive line compared to Baltimore.
Man. Honestly, even though we're still struggling running the ball, you cannot abandon it. That's all. That's my thing. I don't care as much as hard as it is to fix. You still have to find ways to fix that because, like I said, even Baltimore yesterday, when we're breaking down, we broke down that game. We broke it down as if that was regular full strength Baltimore across the board. That was nowhere near full strength Baltimore, and we saw what we looked like. So for me, I feel like you still have to go to the lab and figure out the best way to run the ball. Okay, we've tried it with the different formations. Okay, we still weren't really committed to it. We didn't see a lot of shifts and motions when they tried to run the ball yesterday. We didn't see any of that. For some reason, they don't want to go to that. Okay, fine.
That's when we're not lining up in shotgun or correct, even when we are?
So, a little bit of both because we've seen them under center and in the gun use some of the shifts and motions to ultimately open up the running game. For some reason, they don't want to go back to that. So, all right, cool. We're not going to go to that. You got Derek Watt. He's healthy. They were using him a little bit in the passing stuff, which is kind of weird. I know they highlighted on the interception where he was open and stuff like that. that's not his game per se. I feel like if you're going to use him, you use him to block and you run the ball with him.
Well, I was curious about that because he was wide open, but that can't be the first read, right?
Heck no. I was going to say. Heck no, bro. That's why I was like, when Collins points, I'm like, yeah, he was open, but I'm not tripping on. Like, I was more so, for me, I didn't have the issue with Ben not throwing there. I'd rather Ben throw it out the back of the end zone, but obviously it's 4th down, so you have to try to make a play. That obviously wasn't it.
I just think it was a bad throw, too. Like, he short on that bad.
For me, I'm even 50-50 on the decision. I kind of thought you take the points early because I didn't think that Baltimore could keep up, and I felt like, I know it was me as a defender, me getting a stop on 4th down would give me so much more confidence than if you kick that field goal, and now I'm looking at this 3-0. So to me, that was kind of why I had an issue with the decision as a whole. I thought like when she didn't get it on 3rd down, man, kick the field goal because the biggest issue with them is going to be scoring points to keep up. Kick these field goals. Okay, cool. You're going to get more times down there. We saw how many times they got into the red zone. That was never an issue. But when you leave and you don't get any points, we're not banking on Joe Hayden getting a pick 6 off of RG3, not reading it being covered 2. I mean, to bank on that happening, that's crazy. And I don't think any of us could. And honestly, it's the second time that Coach T got lucky like that versus Baltimore. I remember the first time we played him last year where he defers the kick in overtime and it ends up working out. But it's like, bro, you can't guarantee that's going to work. I mean, how many times could you do that in that scenario working like that? Like, that's not realistic. So that's why yesterday for me, it was more so like, I didn't like the decision to even go for it. I think, man, you kicked that field goal. We were stopping them. We literally had a 3-and-out, and then we had forced a fumble. They fumbled the snap. So it was like, bro, they weren't moving the ball. You never felt threatened by them offensively. Don't bail them out though. And I felt like you going for it on 4th down and ultimately not having success, you bailed them out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's my thing, man. But the way I think you attack them, man, you still have to, the passing is going to be there. We're going to throw the ball, but it's not going to be as easy as we like. And I feel like if we continue this, just stay empty and just throw it, we'll move it 20-20, but then we're going to have these issues again in the red zone unless something happens, where we make a guy miss or we can catch a jump ball and stuff like that.
Why not just do that and then do the running game in the red zone? Unless you feel like it should be happening throughout the whole game.
I feel like it needs to happen throughout the whole game. If you get in the red zone and that's the only time now that you want to start trying to run the ball, you tip your hand. You're very predictable. Right. It's no different than if you run the ball 1st and 2nd down, throw it on 3rd down. It's predictable. If we get inside the 20 and now all of a sudden you want to, that running back's in now. Benny Snell's in. Okay, they're about to run the ball. Here we go now. Like, to me, I don't think that works against this particular defense. I do think, though, the tempo, I think that's going to give them a little bit of challenges because anytime you get great edge rushers, the tempo passing is going to make those guys get tired. It drains you. After 2 and 3 rushes, when the guy's getting out in 2 seconds, you get winded. So now by the time we're 3, 4, 5, 6 plays in, that rush has been, it loses the edge. It's not the same anymore. So I think that does help out. But I think that, man, when you have edge rushers like this, similar to how Baltimore attacked us, we saw what Baltimore's doing, a lot of counters, a lot of power runs where they're hitting it more direct inside, but using our edge rushers against themselves, right? We talked about Bud and TJ, how they're great edge rushers. We would see them get upfield, and these guys are hitting it more downhill, A gap, tight B gap. When I'm looking at this Washington football team, I see these edge rushers I just listed. I'm saying the same thing. Okay, let them get upfield. Let's hit it off inside of them, tight inside. That's how Buffalo, when they run the ball, the Bills, that's what they do with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. They don't necessarily have the O-line that's just going to blow you off the field, but they use those edge rushers that are playing against them. They use it against them. They see the tackle. Oh, yeah, we're about to get after these guys. Okay, you rush the field you want to. We hitting it right inside, tight off for you. So to me, that's something that this team could look to do against this Washington football team because of that element of their game from a defensive standpoint. They have great edge rush. These guys get after the quarterback, but you use that against them. That's what I think, man.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good take. I think that's it. You stop Gibson, you stop Mclaurin.
Well, and the other thing is this, man. For me, my last thing is with Ron Rivera, and this has showed up multiple times now. Alert the trick play. He's gonna have a trick play. They hit a double pass.
Dude, they did it with the Cowboys.
They do it every game. Yeah,
whenever they
absolutely.
did it was like the little giant shit.
So they did it too. Think about it. They had the fumble, the center sneak, fumble roost, whatever you want to call it. I call it the annexation of Puerto Rico. It's my favorite. They had that play, but then they scored on the double pass to Logan Thomas, who threw it into the end zone.
Yeah, you're right.
That's Ron Rivera. I mean, ever since you watch him in Carolina, he's gonna have gadgets. That's why they call him Riverboat Ron. He's gonna take a gamble. That's what he does. So that's another thing that this defense has to be alert for it, man. You have to make sure you're on your screws. See what you're supposed to see. Be fundamentally sound, because when you're fundamentally sound, it'll wipe out all of the trickeration, all of the smoke and mirror stuff. But when you start seeing too much, oh man, this guy's got, is it a reverse? Oh, let me look over here. But you're supposed to be a man coverage on this guy. Now that type of stuff works out. And that's how they got Dallas a little bit, man. You saw Dallas where it's, all right, we're going to not be as disciplined as we should be. And it cost them. So to me, that's the other thing we got to worry about, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like the intersection of Puerto Rico. That was dope.
Is that all we got here?
I feel like it is, bro.
Yeah, I think we're good.
But it's a good podcast, man. I feel like we've given the people a good amount of content right here, man.
Definitely.
Some high quality info, man. Breaking down, previewing. So yeah, it's only right that we get to these predictions for the Steelers versus the
I didn't even think of that.
football
I did
team.
not even think of that. Yeah. Well, we're 11-0, man.
The beard is boofy, bro. You got a little chia pet on your face right now. I love it, man.
We're 11-0.
Chia.
Dude, whenever I was eating that pizza, man, it is getting tough to eat certain foods, because the pizza, I'm getting grease all over my beard and stuff.
You know what you started to look like? You remember Peter Griffin when he had that, where he grew this big, he had like little birds and stuff in his beard? Like,
I'm not family.
You're not a family. I love my family guy, bro. But yeah, he had this beard, and it was really like a little bird, had a whole nest and little chicks hatching in it. Bird poop. I'm like, when he walked in, that you saw so, I was like, Lord, it's getting there. But I like it though. It's 11-0, so let's keep it going, man.
So you know what goes with that then. It's the combo. It's the combo, I think, is what is the powerful thing. It just overcomes anything else.
That's what it is.
That and your hat. I think that's the trifecta.
Anytime we get taco meat.
Yeah, it's a plus. It's always a plus.
It's a plus.
So 27-13.
I like it, man. So you got 27-13.
Steelers gets the dub.
I'm going to go 28-17 Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah, 28-17. I think we'll be able to move the ball and score. Alex Smith, he's going to do some good things. He protects the ball. He makes sure that they are in the right play. That's what a veteran quarterback is supposed to do. To me right now, Alex Smith is a high-end backup, though. I don't view him as the guy, but it's a great story, man. Great inspiration to see him back out there. Even though every time I see him get hit now, I'm always cringing. I'm like, oh God, please be okay. Just get up, because obviously how it happened, last year or 2 years ago for him. But yeah, man, I just think that 28-17, I think we're going to be able to score. We're going to be able to take advantage of that defense. And I don't anticipate not only the drops, but the red zone drops that we saw from the Steelers with Deontay and Ebron. I just don't see that consistently happen. Where these corners, they're good, but they're not going to be making plays in the end zone like Marlon Humphrey. We said Marlon, he made 2 great plays in the end zone, James Washington and Claypool, where it kept points off the board. I don't see their corners making those type of plays consistently against us in the red zone. So yeah, I just think ultimately that we beat them. It's going to be convincing. And I also like the fact,
bro.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that because we had an ugly performance like that, and
motivation.
Yeah, well, because I can tell you for a fact, like talking with those guys, it's not how we talk about like codding and always silver lining. That's never the conversation with the Steelers right now, man.
Oh yeah, you could hear from Tomlin, from Ben,
man.
Yeah,
absolutely. So that to me is why I'm motivated. I feel like this is gonna be a great scenario, because typically after an emotional game, when you're playing against the Ravens, it's always emotional, it's always heated, it's always tight. Usually you can have a letdown, but that's not going to be the case, because now you're pissed off. Now you want to go back out there and prove that we are as good as we've been saying. We're not the worst 11-0 team. We're not, a fraud and all these other things. Like, that's the thing that I think this team is going to take more personal than necessarily not being talked about or not being viewed as the number one team in the weeks prior. I think now that people are calling them the worst 11-0 team, I feel like that's going to motivate them even more to come out there and want to execute and get some of those things addressed. This segment was brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sports booking app. And for all the first-time users out there, if you use the promo code Moats, you will receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonus money. Now, we know that's a lot of money, but we also know that sports booking isn't allowed everywhere just yet. But you know what it is?
Fantasy football.
Fantasy football. And with DraftKings right now, what they have going on, man, they are giving up to $1 million in prize money every single week. Did you hear that? I don't know if you heard that correctly. $1 million in prize money every week when you use their fantasy football app. I mean, it's an amazing situation. You love fantasy football, right?
Yeah, I do.
I love fantasy football. Sometimes I love it a little bit too much because of DraftKings. So with that being said, stop wasting time. Download both apps, the DraftKings Sportsbook and DraftKings Fantasy Football. Use the promo code Moats, and let's get an opportunity to make some money.